Hi, welcome to KiwaniTalk. We're a public information program put together by people from the Dearborn Kiwanis Club, help from students from Dearborn High School with the funding through the Dearborn Cable Commission. My name is Gary Gardner. Welcome to the longest running cable access show in the entire world. Very happy today to have a guest who we had on before. It's been a while. It's been a while since we've known each other too, and we're not going to get into the actual details because it would belie our ages and our weariness. But I'm very happy to have with us today the Chief Judge of the Wayne County, Michigan Circuit Court, Judge Tim Kenney. Judge, I gotta call you Judge because that's one of the things that Brian Czar said a long time ago. The first thing you lose when you become judge is your first name.
I think that's true, and I think it's more of an issue for people who want to talk with us. You know, we've known each other for quite some time, and
25 years plus at least. Yeah.
Yes, and my view is if we were in a courtroom and it was all business, that's one thing, but Tim is fine as well.
Well, I'm here, Judge, so I got to say, Judge. You are a judge, but before you were a judge, you were a lawyer, as am I right now. What made you get into the law, and how did you wind up being a judge?
Well, with regards to your first question about how did I get into the law, it was sort of an interesting journey. Previously to my going to law school, no one in my family was an attorney. We really didn't know any lawyers. My dad was in the newspaper business. He worked at the Free Press downtown, which, as you know, is right next door to where the federal courthouse was.
Right.
For a couple of summers, I worked at the Free Press when I was in college. And I had the kind of job where it was really sort of irregular kind of lunch hour kind of time. And so my dad used to tell me, it's kind of interesting over there at the courthouse. If you have just sort of a lunch hour, take a run over there and just watch what's going on. I was a psychology major in college at the University of Michigan, and I didn't really know what I was going to do with psychology, so I went over several times, sat in on some court proceedings, and I thought it was very interesting. So I took the LSAT test my senior year and got accepted and went to the University of Minnesota Law School, and that's kind of started my journey to be a lawyer.
Then you became a judge. What made you want to become a judge? I know I ran, but what was your story?
I was very happy being an attorney. I had the privilege to work in the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office for 20 years, had wonderful assignments, and found it very rewarding. And a couple of people spoke with me and kind of encouraged me to think about becoming a judge. And I hadn't really thought about it very much, but with some encouragement, I put my name in several times for vacancies that had popped up, and I was very grateful that in 1996 Governor Engler appointed me to the bench.
Well, and you've done a remarkable job as a judge and also manager, which is probably a lot less fun than being a judge sometimes, of probably one of the largest largest courts in the entire world or the entire country.
Yes, I think we're like the 12th largest trial court in the United States. We are certainly the biggest in the state of Michigan. There are 58 judges who serve on our bench, and we have a criminal division, a civil division, which handles things like personal injury, automobile accidents, and medical malpractice.
All that tawdry
like
stuff.
That. And we have a family domestic division and a family juvenile division, and our friend of the court as well. So it's a big operation, over 500 employees, and it's
It's a massive operation, and it's consolidated, and it's actually running. You know, the changes to technology in the 25 years that you've been there, and we're going to get to the Zoom and all the other crazy stuff we have now. But what changes have you seen to the court's procedures and the way that data is kept and court reporters work? How's that changed?
Well, interestingly enough, when I first started out as an assistant prosecutor in Wayne County, I was assigned to work in Recorder's Court in Detroit. And there was a court reporter in a trial that I did early on in my career who took the record in shorthand.
Wow.
And then, of course, we had the technology was mask reporters, if you'll remember, where the court reporter would speak into a mask and it would go on to a cassette recorder. And now we're in a situation where we have no court reporter in many of the courtrooms, and everything is taken by video as to what transpires in the courtroom. So it's been a world of change.
World of change, because if you, and especially in the family division, a lot of times the judges want to review something that happened at a prior hearing, and they can actually call it up and get to that part of the hearing and remember or recall or show, here's what you said, Mr. Gardner. And it's either good or bad sometimes. Mostly it's good, though.
Sure. And I think it's very helpful as well, where, as you know, sometimes there are hearings that the judges have to conduct, and sometimes they're protracted for one reason or another. That's not all done in one morning or one afternoon and moves over to a future date. And before making a decision, the judge has the opportunity to go back and look at that video and
not have to wait for a transcript, not
exactly.
wait for the reporter and the time and everything else that goes on. Also, and the technology too, and it's kind of, I think our Supreme Court was prescient in some respects a number of years ago, where they not required or installed or put in video cameras and monitors in all the courtrooms. And turns out that something happened at the beginning of 2020 that made that a whole different world that we're living in now.
It sure did, and it really has been very beneficial for us. Obviously, at the beginning of the pandemic last year, there was the necessity of just having a safe environment in which the court could conduct business. I mean, we couldn't just shut down or say, we're going into hibernation until the pandemic is over. There were issues that had to be resolved. We did have to conduct our business, but we had to switch almost on a dime to begin remote proceedings. So having those kinds of technology was a help.
Give us the inside baseball, how you guys did that. What kind of powwows and technology people did you put together and say, how are we going to do this, and how did that answer come together?
Well, at the Third Circuit Court, we're extraordinarily blessed to have a great IT team that's run by Mike Gruich and his team. I kind of make my way along in sort of a rudimentary fashion, if you will. I mean, I'm certainly not a techie. I know enough so that I can navigate what I need to do, and learning a little bit all the time. But we had to huddle with our IT people. Interestingly enough, about 6 months before the pandemic hit, the Supreme Court had provided Zoom licenses for all of the judges. But pre-pandemic, the tradition and the culture of the court, if you will, was that as an attorney, if you had a matter before me or something, you would come into court.
Right.
And the Zoom provided us with a great opportunity to have our IT people who worked at times it seemed like round the clock, not only setting up the technology and the logistics for us to work, but then they had the rather unenviable task of having to give us, all of us judges, a crash course on how to operate it.
And a little bit of history, too, is even before the pandemic, the courtrooms did have cameras, which was how you were doing the transcriptions for when we replaced the court reporters, the mask reporters, the steno reporters. That equipment was there to some degree, but the Supreme Court had said, put the big TV monitors in the courtroom. That was ready to go.
Yeah.
And then the Zoom licensing was a pretty interesting thing too. When it started going, there was a shutdown of the court. People were just rightly, I think, concerned about the effects. But then it started coming back, and for the civil division and for the family division, it's been pretty easy. Talk about how people, attorneys you've spoken with and the judges, how they feel about, in the civil division, how they like or dislike the Zoom hearing aspect of it.
Well, I think that certainly the attorneys overwhelmingly are in favor of keeping Zoom. And in meetings that I've had with the different divisions of our court and also talking with attorneys for each division, I've made it known that Zoom is here to stay. I mean, when the pandemic eases, we are not going to box up all of the Zoom equipment and put it in the attic. I think that it has become a very useful tool. Attorneys like it because instead of having to get in their car and drive maybe from Wayne County Circuit Court on the same day to go to Macomb County and then maybe out to Washtenaw County and
been there and done that.
Hope that you're not late and hope the judge isn't going to be mad if you run into traffic.
Make sure you know the clerk and tell the clerk you're going to be early or be late, and get in and out. Yeah.
So I think that certainly Zoom has enabled attorneys to appear in other jurisdictions on the same day. It has made it a lot easier, I think, to do more work, expand your practice. So I think it's been a big hit for attorneys. When it comes to having to do a hearing or a trial, Zoom really is not the mechanism by and large.
Certainly, I think because of I mentioned the civil and family divisions, and I kept the criminal division aside because there's certain requirements that the criminal court has as far as the rights of the people who are charged. And I think some attorneys are using that leverage a little bit to talk about that part of it.
Well, I think that in the criminal division, we have been using Zoom for a lot of the pretrial hearings and non-trial or hearing appearances.
Although the defendants have an absolute right to be present in court.
They do. They do. I think those who are out on bond find it a lot easier to come in on Zoom if it's just more of a ministerial kind of event rather than having to travel all the way to court. Those who are in custody like, I think, certainly more often than those who are out on bond wanting to come
They want a field trip.
Well, and not only that, I think they want to have an opportunity to maybe try to persuade the judge to lower their bond or something like that, or make sure that they get an earlier trial date or whatever.
Right.
So certainly those who are in custody are more anxious to be face-to-face with the judge. But I think that, as I've told judges and attorneys, we will presume to use Zoom equipment for motions, for settlement conferences, pretrial calendaring kinds of events. But I leave it up to the discretion of each judge if they decide, this is a matter where I really need the attorneys to come in.
Push them up like a cattle call we used to have and all those sort of things.
I think the cattle call, and I think for your audience, it's what attorneys referred to as our motion day, which is Friday, where the judge's courtroom would be packed with attorneys who are just waiting for their case to be called. Now it is almost entirely by Zoom. And you may get a notice that, okay, Mr. Gardner, Friday, your motion or your pretrial matter will be heard at 10:30.
Right, and it's better, and actually it works out pretty well. Although I have to say, I have had occasions where I've had my computer, my laptop, my cell phone going with 3 different courts at the same time. We're going to come back though and talk about this some more. We're talking with Judge Tim Kenny, Chief Judge of the Wayne County Third Circuit Court of Michigan, about technology, Zoom, and other stuff. Don't go away. We'll come back and get into the really exciting stuff in a minute. Don't go away.
There must be a lot of love out there in the world, at least if you think of all the things people say they love. But it's funny. Sometimes the things we love the most are the ones we don't talk about often enough. I mean, the things that bring true change to a child's life, to a community, to the people who come together and make change happen. Think about what you love about your club. Think about the children it reaches. Think about the pride it gives you. And think about this. Thousands of Kiwanians around the world love being members of their clubs too. So think about what could happen if we all shared our Kiwanis stories. After all, there's a million things to love in the world, but there's nothing like a love that makes the world better. So show it, share it, let the world know.
Welcome back to KiwaniTalk. I'm your host, Gary Gardner, with this episode talking with the Chief Judge of the Wayne County Circuit Court, Judge Tim Kenny. Tim Kenny and I go back a long way. And so I think when I was in law school, I worked at the Organized Crime Task Force back in 1979 and 80.
Okay,
So we were in the same building and the same sort of thing there for a while. But it's good to see you here, and thank you for coming on the program. And again, we were talking about the criminal division and how the defendants have an absolute right to have an in-person hearing, and I think that the logistics of a criminal trial really say it's hard to do by Zoom. So talk about the return to the in-persons and the backlog that you have, and maybe how that's going to be addressed.
Sure. Certainly the criminal division docket poses some very challenging issues for us. We have, since mid-July, in the criminal division, we have been resuming jury trials on a limited basis. For those who get jury summons to come down, we want everybody to be aware of the fact that we take all kinds of precautions to keep people safe. We even have about a 3-minute video that they can see on our court website. So if you go to the Third Circuit Court website at 3rdcc.org, they can see that. But we are not just sort of opening the floodgates as if things were back to normal, because we need to socially distance people. And so someone who comes for a trial, for jury duty, for example, we have a nursing staff, if you will, who will ask them about COVID symptoms and also do a temperature check. Presumably, if someone passes that, then they will come to our jury assembly room where we have them socially distanced. And when they arrive, they're given a little bag that has hand sanitizer, extra masks, also has a shield, one of those clear shields, so that when attorneys are asking jurors questions about whether or not they can or should sit on the jury, the attorneys and the judge will be able to see their expressions.
It's one of the things I always like about in-person trials and hearings because, as we said before that we started this morning, this afternoon, I like to be able to see and to hear and to actually smell the witnesses and the jurors and see, and that facial expression, that intangible thing, I think that's very important for counsel and for your client as a defense counsel. That I want my client to feel comfortable with the person that's on the jury and not hiding behind a mask.
Sure, and there is certainly that opportunity, and once the jury is selected, however, then the jurors will be wearing the masks. Witnesses, when they come in to get on the witness stand to testify, will come into the courtroom wearing a mask, but then they will be provided with a shield as well, so that the attorneys as well as the jurors will be able to see the facial expressions and body language of the witness.
Now, before the pandemic, Frank Murphy Hall of Justice was a beehive of activity, trials. I don't know, there's maybe 27 or 30 judges over there that operate from that courtroom, from that courthouse. What happened to the backlog? How is that being I know it was best thing ever for defense counsel because there are really great deals being offered from
That's
the prosecutor's
right. Well,
office.
and we still do have a substantial backlog, and it has forced us to do a number of very creative things. For example, starting in January, mid-January, we have an agreement or an arrangement with the 36th District Court where a lot of these carrying concealed weapon cases are going to hopefully be resolved over in the 36th District Court. Two of the judges have been cross-designated as Third Circuit Court judges for purposes of resolving these gun cases if we can. We are using a number of judges, probably the beginning of February. There will be 6 of us in the civil division who will take on a small number of these gun cases to see about just resolving them. One of the really interesting things we're going to be doing in late January to deal with what about the cases involving people who are out on bond? How do we pick juries so we can get up and running and have more jury trials going, but still have a jury assembly room where we can socially distance people and keep them safe? So we are finalizing our arrangements so that in late January, on Tuesdays and Thursdays, we will be starting out picking juries in cases involving defendants who are out on bond. We will be using the TCF Center.
Oh, wow.
And we have space for a large jury assembly room as well as multiple courtrooms that we can, two rooms that we will be able to pick 2 juries a day. We're starting out using just Tuesdays and Thursdays, but we expect very shortly thereafter, Monday through Thursday, we'll be picking 2 juries a day in the TCF Center to kind of whittle away that backlog.
We're down to about our last 4 or 5 minutes, Judge, and so where do you see all the technological things? Like right now, everything we do is I file by PDF. There is a backlog of filings with the Wayne County Clerk, not your division. Wayne County Clerk, people need to know, is separate from the Circuit Court. The clerk's office is way behind. Last week, I had filings from October 5th, had not been filed as of December 5th. and that's just untenable. Justice delayed, denied. But going forward, I think the PDF, the electronic filing, the M-file, where's that going to be going for Wayne County Circuit Court?
Well, the ultimate goal and what we are working toward is the notion where we are a paperless court, that everything is filed and stored electronically, and we are certainly very mindful of the backlog in terms of the family division, as you mentioned. I do want to say that the clerk's office was dramatically impacted. I think in terms of there were people who retired right when the pandemic hit. There were also, the county through Warren Evans and the commission has also sort of stepped up and raised the pay for clerks, and so there are really major efforts being made by the county clerk's office and the county executive to certainly help increase the staffing. That will help with the backlog. As an interim matter, we are also devising another workaround that will expand our ability to accelerate how matters get filed with the clerk's office, and so that you don't wait this lengthy period of time. But I think we're going to be paperless as a court. I think technology for hearings and pretrial conferences and whatnot will be utilized tremendously. And I think certainly for family law type cases, clients of yours, just having the benefit of not having to take off a day of work for a half-hour hearing or something is a plus.
There are so many clients I know who have trepidation about traveling downtown, parking, and then they don't know what's going to happen. They've never been to court before, but if they want, they come to my office. I sit next to them, almost literally hold their hand and go through the hearing. But it's a great thing. And again, we talked earlier. I've expanded my practice area. Tomorrow I have a hearing in Branch County.
Yeah.
And I've done hearings in Roscommon County, okay? And so there's that ability, but I still prefer my home county, which I consider to be Wayne County, and I'm really happy that we've had the opportunity to have the chief from Wayne County, Judge Tim Kenny, here with us on the show.
Well, thank you so much for the invitation, and so nice to see you in person.
It is a pleasure. You have no idea how important it is to be able to see people, to see them and hear them. And I don't smell you today, but Judge, thanks a lot for coming on
Thanks
the program.
so much again for having me, Gary.
Thank you for being on KiwaniTalk, Judge. Thank you for tuning in today. I'm Gary Gardner. See you next time. Bye-bye.